frame. So first up, we're going to hear from Tyrone Mowat. Welcome, Tyrone.
Good morning, Vice Chair Morton, members of the board, Secretary Pizer, Commissioner Riley. My name is Tyrone Mowat, and this is perhaps the 7th time that I have offered comments to the board, mostly on matters related to gifted and talented education in the Commonwealth. I am the former chair of the Gifted and Talented Council for this board some years back. I spoke before this board at the last meeting of the last term in June of this year, imploring the board to read a report commissioned by BESE, but completed by an external researcher that looked at the policies and practices of the Commonwealth as it relates to the education of advanced learners across the state. Although the commissioned report requested by the legislature was released this summer, many of us, as well as many members of BESE, knew the findings in early spring, and I've handed it out to most of you. I've handed specific pages of that report to you this morning so that it is clear to me and others that the board is on notice and aware of what is happening to gifted black and brown children across the Commonwealth. This report is the culmination of many people, many of them parents of gifted children that are struggling to find adequate support for their children. Many of these parents are vocal, supported by organizations such as Massachusetts Association for Gifted Education, or MAGE. These parents are more able to reach out to legislators and others that can influence policy. But there are other parents that are not as fortunate, and today I am here to represent the voices of many that are voiceless in the call for equal education for their advanced learners. Across the Commonwealth, so many black and brown children with capacity for high achievement are stifled by a system that is known to have huge gaps in outcomes based on race and income. In a recent Boston Globe story on college attainment of the Commonwealth's high school students, a picture of persistent failure of equity is painted when looking at college completion rates for black and brown high school graduates. Now we can quantitatively show with the report that the barriers to success start much earlier. The barrier, as described in the Gifted report, which you have access to, is not because many of these children are unprepared, as they are scoring advanced on MCAS and early grades. The barrier is that they have been relegated to low-performing schools where their talents are wasted, and these treasures wither on the vine, falling far behind each year they are in school. So let's connect the dots. For how long did we label the disparate outcomes as an achievement gap? Now data, not just my research, has shown that the achievement gap is really an opportunity gap that precludes achievement, even for the best and brightest brown and black kids. That opportunity gap has created an excellence gap where black and brown are barred from participation in classrooms today and in the future economy of tomorrow. As we can see from the recent Globe article focused on college completion, the opportunity gap is there throughout the academic career of black and brown students. And as I can tell you, as a person of color, that has and continues to struggle to make a difference in this state for children of color, but has been rejected by those invested in the status quo, the opportunity gap exists for many people like me also. It is pervasive, but I do not accept the fact that it is persistent. I cannot accept that it is persistent. The next gap to be uncovered is the belief gap. The belief that black and brown children can achieve at the same level as others, and more importantly, the belief that they deserve an education that will prepare them to be globally competitive. The belief that people like me have the expertise, motivations, and desires that should be called upon to bring about these necessary changes, and the belief that new thought is needed and new voices need to be heard. I urge you to read the report, but I have provided a few pages for you to see what is occurring in this state in education for our young and what we as adults are also facing. The reasons are obvious in this new era. I am placing my hope on Commissioner Riley to change the trajectory of these children and to unmask what is known and now fully documented, to push Massachusetts to be #1 in its recognition of the excellence gap and #1 in its actions to close it. I implore this board to open the doors of opportunity for the children of color and to give hope to the parents of color that have been left out of too many of these conversations. I implore the Commissioner to reform his department so that they will listen to others rather than preclude them from helping their own. Look around the room today. Now you see why I must persist. Please review page 59 of the report, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And we'll now hear from the Commissioner.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to remind folks that we're trying to make this a shorter meeting than usual, as we do have a retreat on Thursday. Just a few items from me. NAEP results were released from Massachusetts. The National Center for Education Stats released the NAEP results, and for the 8th consecutive time, Massachusetts 4th and 8th graders scored first or statistically tied for first on reading and math NAEP tests. Although the state remains one of the highest, or if not the highest performing, we have to be honest and look more closely at the data that shows that we have flatlined for almost a decade and that other states are catching up. Equally troubling, if not more so, our achievement gaps remain incredibly high. And as we begin to switch our direction at the state, we need to make sure that we get the word out so that we can move in a direction which we think is beneficial to our students. This will require both additional funding and oversight to be able to help our districts. Gifted and talented students. Following a recent legislative report on the state of gifted and talented education in Massachusetts, the department will be reinstating the Gifted and Talented Education Advisory Council in the coming months. The council will be charged with reviewing the legislative's report's recommendations, a literature review on acceleration models, something I'm very interested in, and local and national programming to inform the department's role in supporting schools and districts in this area. As was noted in earlier comments, it's pretty shocking to see that students who are identified as gifted early in their elementary school careers lose that designation later in their elementary school careers, and I think we have to step in to do something about it.